Give me your flagship store. Those 5 words from my father finally broke the fragile bond between us that had survived over 40 years. I stood frozen in his study, gripping the DNA test results in my purse, knowing that within the hour, I would destroy his entire world at his own birthday party. My name is Evelyn. I'm 50 years old, and today, I'm about to expose a 26-year lie that has poisoned my life since I was 10. But to understand why I'm doing this, you need to know how it all began. Flashback, mother's death. The antiseptic smell of the hospital still haunts me. I was 10 years old, watching my mother waste away from cancer, her once vibrant eyes growing dimmer each day. The machines beeped steadily, counting down her final moments while I held her frail hand. Take care of your father, she whispered with her last breath, her fingers weakly squeezing mine. He'll need you. He's not as strong as he pretends to be. I nodded, tears streaming down my face, not understanding then how prophetic her words would be. My father, Richard Montgomery, was a titan in the retail industry, a department store executive who commanded boardrooms and intimidated competitors. But without my mother, he was lost. The funeral was a blur of black suits and hushed condolences. I remember standing beside my father, feeling his hand tremble as he accepted sympathies from hundreds of mourners. For weeks afterward, he'd sit in his study late at night, staring at her photograph, a glass of whiskey untouched beside him. But he didn't need me for long. Within 8 months, he'd found Claire, a real estate agent with perfectly manicured nails, designer suits, and a smile that never quite reached her calculating eyes. She appeared at a charity function, strategically positioning herself near my father, laughing at his jokes, touching his arm just so. Evelyn, this is Claire, he'd said one evening, bringing her home for dinner. She's been helping me look at some investment properties. I saw through her immediately, the way a child sometimes sees what adults miss. But my father was blind to everything except her attention, her flattery, and her carefully crafted image of the perfect partner. They married quickly, a small ceremony that felt more like a business merger than a celebration of love. And soon after, my half-sister Megan was born. That's when my life became a living hell. At home, past. Evelyn, you're too loud. Evelyn, clean your sister's room. Evelyn, you can't have friends over anymore. Evelyn, why must you always upset your sister? Claire's voice became the soundtrack of my teenage years, a constant stream of criticism and commands that echoed through our once happy home. The house that had been filled with my mother's laughter and warmth turned cold and sterile, redecorated in Claire's minimalist style, all white furniture and sharp edges. My father, Richard, once a powerful department store executive who used to carry me on his shoulders through his flagship store, pointing out displays and teaching me about business, now looked through me as if I were invisible. He'd grown up poor, always desperate for status and acceptance, and Claire knew exactly how to play to his insecurities. I remember the night I heard them talking in the kitchen, thinking I was asleep. She reminds you too much of her, doesn't she? Claire's voice was soft but calculating. Let me handle her. Focus on our family. Megan needs a stable environment, and Evelyn, well, she's old enough to understand. But she's my daughter, my father had protested weakly. And Megan is our daughter. Our future. Evelyn will be fine. She's strong, like her mother. The irony of Claire using my mother's strength as an excuse to neglect me wasn't lost on me, even then. Life with Claire and Megan grew into a miniature version of her mother, entitled, manipulative, and cruel. By the time she was 5, she'd learned that anything she wanted, she got. And what she wanted most was to see me suffer. Evelyn took my doll. She'd wail, holding up a toy I'd never touched. Evelyn won't play with me. She'd cry, after spending hours refusing to let me join her games. Evelyn's being mean became her favorite phrase, usually accompanied by perfectly timed tears. And every time, without fail, Claire would swoop in like an avenging angel. Evelyn, how could you upset your sister like this? She's just a child. My father, when he was home from work, would simply nod along with whatever Claire decided. His backbone had disappeared along with his first wife. School years, school became my escape, but even there, Claire's influence followed me. parent-teacher conferences, or exercises in humiliation. Evelyn's grades are satisfactory, my English teacher would say, but she seems withdrawn. Well, she's always been difficult, Claire would respond, sighing dramatically. We do our best, but some children are just naturally antisocial. My father would sit silently, checking his watch, his mind clearly on his next business meeting. The worst came during my sophomore year. I'd been selected for the lead role in the school play, Maria in The Sound of Music. I practiced for weeks, pouring my heart into the role, finding joy in something that was entirely mine. The night of the performance, I searched the audience for my father's face. He'd promised to come, but his seat remained empty. Later, I learned that Claire had forgotten to remind him, and they'd taken Megan to a ballet recital instead. The school play? Claire had said dismissively when I confronted them. Oh, darling, those things are so amateurish. Megan's recital was at the professional theater downtown. You understand, don't you? I understood perfectly. Grandmother's house. Thank God for Grandmother Catherine. A retired nurse with steel in her spine and eyes that missed nothing. She saw through Claire immediately. Come here, sweetheart, she'd say, opening her arms wide whenever I appeared on her doorstep, which was increasingly often. Her house, a Victorian cottage filled with the scent of lavender and freshly baked cookies, became my sanctuary. Her house was everything my father's wasn't: warm, welcoming, and full of unconditional love. My cousins, Jack, Emma, and little Tommy, treated me like the sister Megan never was. We'd spend entire weekends there, playing board games, baking cookies, and most importantly, they'd listen when I needed to talk. Your mother would be so proud of how strong you are, Grandmother would say, stroking my hair as I cried myself to sleep on her antique four-poster bed. Don't let them break you, Evelyn. Promise me. I promise, Grandma, I'd whisper back, drawing strength from her fierce love. Grandmother Catherine became my confidant, my advisor, and my fierce protector. When Claire tried to prevent me from visiting, claiming it disrupted the family routine, Grandmother marched into my father's office and delivered a blistering speech that left even him speechless. That girl has lost her mother, and if you think I'll let her lose her grandmother too, you're sorely mistaken, Richard Montgomery. I raised your first wife to be a strong, compassionate woman, and I'll be damned if I don't do the same for her daughter. High school struggles. As Megan grew older, her tactics became more sophisticated. She'd borrow my homework and claim it as her own. She'd spread rumors about me at school, telling everyone I was mentally unstable and jealous of her perfect family. She even convinced her friends to exclude me from social events, claiming I made them uncomfortable. The final straw came during my senior year. I'd been saving for months to buy a special dress for prom, a beautiful blue gown that reminded me of one my mother had worn in an old photograph. The morning of prom, I found it shredded in my closet, Megan's scissors lying conspicuously nearby. Oh no, Claire had exclaimed with fake concern. How terrible. Well, these things happen. I'm sure you can find something else to wear. I didn't go to prom. Instead, I spent the evening at grandmother's house, planning my escape. College years, the day I received my college acceptance letter with a partial scholarship to a prestigious fashion school 3 states away, was the happiest day of my young life. Freedom. Finally. We won't be paying for anything beyond what the scholarship covers, Clara announced at dinner, not even looking up from her plate. After all, fashion design is hardly a practical career choice. I'll help, Grandmother Catherine said firmly, shooting Clara a look that could freeze hell. Evelyn has talent, and talent should be nurtured. My father remained silent, as usual. College was like breathing fresh air after years underwater. I threw myself into my studies, working part-time at boutiques, and slowly began to heal. My professors recognized my talent immediately. You have your mother's eye for design, one of them told me, showing me an old magazine featuring my mother wearing a stunning gown. She was quite famous in her day, you know. I hadn't known. My father had erased almost all traces of her from our home. My father called rarely, and when he did, our conversations were stilted and brief. How's everything? He'd ask awkwardly. I'd hear Claire coaching him in the background. Ask her about her grades. Don't mention money. Everything's fine, Dad, I'd respond, the word dad feeling foreign on my tongue. Good, good. Well, I should go. Claire needs me to help with something. Career beginnings. After graduation, a prestigious fashion house offered me a position as a junior designer. The salary was modest, but the opportunity was priceless. I returned to my home state, foolishly thinking I might reconnect with my father now that I was a successful adult. Oh, we converted your room into Megan's walk-in closet, Claire said when I called about staying temporarily while I apartment hunted. Hotels are reasonable these days. Surely she can stay for a few days, my father had ventured hesitantly. Richard, darling, we discussed this. Megan needs her space. She's at such a sensitive age. Megan was 16 and had enough space to house a small army. My father remained silent on the extension, his compliance absolute. Grandmother Catherine welcomed me instead. This is your home as long as you need it, darling. To hell with those two vipers. Building success. For 15 years, I climbed the corporate ladder, designing collections that caught the industry's attention. I worked harder than anyone else, staying late, coming in early, pouring my soul into every sketch and every stitch. My first major breakthrough came when a celebrity wore one of my designs to the Oscars. The phone didn't stop ringing for weeks. Suddenly, everyone wanted an Evelyn Montgomery original. You're making quite a name for yourself, my father said during one of our rare lunches, a hint of pride breaking through his usual detachment. No thanks to you, I wanted to say, but didn't. Instead, I smiled politely and changed the subject. At 45, I took the biggest risk of my life, starting my own brand. I still remember signing those loan papers, my hand shaking. You're betting everything on yourself, my lawyer warned. I know, I replied, but I've been betting against myself for too long. The brand took off beyond my wildest dreams. High-end boutiques begged for exclusives. Fashion magazines featured my designs. Critics called my work revolutionary and a breath of fresh air in a stagnant industry. And now, at 50, I was about to open my flagship store on Madison Avenue, a dream I'd harbored since childhood, when my mother would take me window shopping and whisper, "Someday, darling, your designs will be in these windows." The success story. The road to success wasn't easy. There were countless nights when I'd fall asleep at my desk, surrounded by sketches and fabric swatches. There were moments of doubt when orders were slow or when bigger brands tried to crowd me out of the market. But I persevered. My mother's strength, grandmother Catherine's wisdom, and my own determination carried me through. Each collection was better than the last. Each show garnered more attention. Soon, celebrities were fighting to wear my designs on red carpets, and fashion editors were calling me the future of American fashion. The flagship store was my crowning achievement, 5 stories of pristine retail space in the heart of Manhattan's fashion district. I'd personally overseen every detail, from the Italian marble floors to the custom crystal chandeliers. The opening was scheduled for next week, with the fashion world's elite already RSVP'd. The inheritance. A year ago, grandmother Catherine passed away peacefully in her sleep at 92. She'd lived a full life, sharp and spirited until the end. The funeral was beautiful, filled with flowers, music, and stories that celebrated her remarkable spirit. She left her house to my cousins. They'd helped maintain it for years, and it was only fair. To me, she left $150,000 and a letter written in her elegant cursive. My dearest Evelyn, you remind me so much of your mother, her strength, her grace, her determination. But you've surpassed even her in resilience. Use this to finally spread your wings. Don't let anyone clip them again. Remember, the best revenge is living well. All my love, grandmother. Combined with my savings and business success, I could finally open my dream store without massive debt. The grand opening was scheduled for next week, and the fashion press was already calling it the most anticipated retail launch of the decade. The call. Then my phone rang. Father's name on the screen still made my stomach clench, even after all these years. Evelyn, his voice was formal, distant. We need to discuss a family matter. Come to lunch on Saturday. Something in his tone set off alarm bells. I hadn't been invited to a family matter in decades. The last time had been when they decided to sell my mother's jewelry without consulting me. What's this about? I asked cautiously. We'll discuss it when you arrive. 1 o'clock sharp. Preparation. I spent the next few days in a state of heightened anxiety. What could they possibly want? I'd learned long ago to expect the worst from Claire and Megan, but this formal summons was unusual even for them. Be careful, my assistant warned. The fact that they're calling now, right before your opening, seems suspicious. She was right. The timing was too perfect to be coincidental. At Father's house present, the house looked exactly the same, imposing, cold, and unwelcoming. I rang the doorbell, noting that they'd removed the welcome mat my mother had chosen years ago. Claire answered, her smile as fake as her enhanced features. Evelyn, darling. So good of you to come. I followed her to my father's study, where he sat behind his massive desk like a king on his throne. Megan lounged on the leather sofa, not bothering to look up from her phone. Sit, my father commanded, gesturing to the single chair facing them, clearly positioned to make me feel like I was on trial. What's this about? I asked, remaining standing. Evelyn, as I'm sure you're aware, this is a great and important time for our family, he began pompously. For young Megan here, the future is wide open with possibilities. I remained silent, waiting for the other shoe to drop. Give me your flagship store. The words hung in the air of my father's mahogany-paneled study. I blinked, certain I'd misheard. I'm sorry. What? I managed, my voice barely above a whisper. Megan needs it, father said, as if explaining something obvious to a particularly slow child. She's completed her MBA, and she deserves a chance to prove herself in business. I stared at him, then at Megan, who hadn't bothered to look up from her phone. She'd never worked a day in her life, had failed to secure a job despite her expensive education, and now they wanted my store? My life's work? The location is perfect, Claire added smoothly, her manicured nails tapping against the armrest. The lease? The renovations you've done, it would take us years to replicate that. And really, as her older sister, you should want to help her succeed. Confrontation intensifies. Help her succeed? The words echoed in my mind. The same girl who had made my childhood a living hell? Who had accidentally spilled red wine on my portfolio before a crucial presentation? Who had spread rumors about me at every family gathering? Who had torn up my prom dress out of spite? No. The word came out stronger than I expected, filling the room with its finality. No? Father's eyebrows rose, his face flushing with the beginnings of anger. I don't think you understand, Evelyn. This is not a request. Then what is it? I stood, my legs surprisingly steady despite the trembling in my hands. A demand? A threat? If necessary. His face darkened, taking on the expression that had once terrified his business rivals. I'm still your father. I still have influence in this industry. I can make things difficult for you. The threat hung in the air between us. My father, who hadn't attended a single one of my fashion shows, who hadn't called to congratulate me on any of my successes, was now threatening to destroy what I'd built. I laughed, a sharp, brittle sound that seemed to surprise even me. You're threatening me? After everything? After years of neglect, of choosing them over me, of pretending I didn't exist? Don't be dramatic, Claire interjected, her voice dripping with condescension. We're simply asking you to be reasonable. Family helps family. Family? I repeated, the word tasting bitter on my tongue. What would you know about family? You destroyed mine the moment you walked through that door. The ultimatum, let me be clear, father said, standing to his full height, using his size to intimidate me as he'd done to so many others. Either you sign over the flagship store to Megan, or you're cut off completely. No inheritance. No family connections. Nothing. Claire's smile widened, a predator sensing victory. They thought they had me cornered. I need to think about this, I said quietly, watching their satisfied expressions. Of course, father said magnanimously. Take until the end of the week. But remember, Evelyn, this is your chance to finally be part of this family. To make up for all the difficulties you've caused over the years. The gaslighting was so blatant, so shameless, that I almost admired their audacity. May I use the bathroom? I asked, my voice small and defeated. They nodded, already dismissing me from their minds, confident in their victory. Discovery. But I didn't go to the bathroom. Instead, I slipped into Megan's room, my old room now a shrine to her privileged existence. Designer clothes hung in the walk-in closet that had once been my sanctuary. Expensive jewelry littered the vanity where I'd once kept my modest collection of books and sketches. And there, on her desk, was her laptop, carelessly left open. My hands trembling, I clicked through her email, not sure what I was looking for until I found it, a thread between her and someone named Matthew Foster. The messages were intimate, familiar, discussing things no business associate would mention. Can't wait to see you tonight. Same place as always. Mom's getting suspicious. We need to be more careful. Dad still doesn't know about us, does he? Dad. Why would Megan refer to someone else as Dad? That evening, my cousin Jack called. You need to see something, he said urgently. I'm sending you photos. The images loaded on my phone. Claire in a dimly lit restaurant, kissing a man who definitely wasn't my father. Multiple photos, clearly showing an intimate relationship. Who is he? I asked, my mind racing. Matthew Foster. I did some digging. He's Claire's business partner at the real estate firm. Has been for 26 years. 26 years. Megan was 26 years old. My hands shaking, I searched social media. Matthew Foster's profile was public, filled with photos spanning decades. And there, in a photo from 26 years ago, was a young man with distinctive features, the same nose, the same eyes, the same smile that Megan wore. The resemblance was undeniable. The decision, the next morning, I visited a discreet DNA testing facility. I need a paternity test, I told them, handing over carefully collected hair samples from Megan's brush and my father's comb. Rush order, please. That'll be $2,000 for expedited processing, the technician said. Done, I replied without hesitation. 2 weeks later, the results confirmed what I'd suspected. Megan was not my father's biological daughter. The probability of paternity, 0%. The final confrontation. When Claire called again, her voice was sharp with impatience. We need your decision, Evelyn. The paperwork is ready. Sign over the store or lose everything. I'll be at Father's birthday party, I said calmly. We can discuss it then. The party? She sounded surprised. You weren't invited. I am now. Tell Father I have a special gift for him. The birthday party, Father's 75th birthday party, was a grand affair. The country club ballroom glittered with crystal chandeliers, the cream of society mingling with champagne flutes in hand. Industry colleagues, society friends, and extended family filled the room. I arrived fashionably late, wearing a stunning red dress from my own collection, the color my mother had loved most. Heads turned as I entered, whispers following in my wake. Evelyn. Father boomed from across the room, playing the role of loving patriarch. I'm so glad you could make it. Have you made your decision about the store? I have, I said calmly. But first, I have a birthday gift for you. The room quieted as I approached the head table where Father sat with Claire and Megan, the perfect family portrait they'd cultivated for decades. Actually, I said, standing before the microphone, I'd like to say something. The room fell completely silent. I could feel hundreds of eyes on me as I walked to the front, my heels clicking on the marble floor. Father, you asked me to give up my flagship store for Megan. You said family helps family. I paused, pulling the envelope from my purse. So I thought you should know exactly who your family is. The revelation. I handed him the DNA test results. Read it, I said softly. Out loud. His face went from confusion to shock to rage as he scanned the document. Claire grabbed for the papers, but I was ready with my phone, displaying the photos of her with Matthew. 26 years, I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. 26 years of lies. Megan isn't your daughter, Father. She's the product of Claire's decades-long affair with Matthew Foster. The room erupted in gasps and whispers. Claire's perfectly composed face crumbled. This is a lie. She shrieked. She's making this up. She's always been jealous. The DNA doesn't lie, I said calmly. And neither do these photos. I connected my phone to the projection system, displaying the images for all to see. Daddy? Megan's voice was small, confused. For the first time in her life, she looked genuinely vulnerable. My father stood slowly, his face a mask of betrayed fury. Get out, he said, his voice deadly quiet. Both of you, get out of my sight. Aftermath. Without another word, I walked out, leaving chaos behind me. The sound of father's roar echoed through the ballroom, followed by Claire's desperate pleas and the shocked murmurs of the guests. The next week was a blur of phone calls and messages. Father filed for divorce immediately, freezing Claire's assets and cutting off Megan's credit cards. The scandal rocked their social circle, with Claire and Megan becoming persona non grata overnight. My store opening proceeded as planned, though now with an added layer of publicity I hadn't anticipated. The fashion press couldn't resist the drama, dubbing it the Revenge Collection. 3 months later, I was a fool, Father said, sitting across from me in a small cafe, not his usual power lunch spot, but a quiet place I'd chosen. He looked older, diminished, his commanding presence reduced to that of a broken man. Yes, I agreed simply. You were, all these years, I'd pushed you away for a lie. His hands trembled as he lifted his coffee cup. Your mother would be ashamed of me. Yes, I said again. She would. Can you forgive me? I stirred my latte slowly, considering the question. Forgiveness will take time. Trust will take longer. You chose them over me for 26 years. You threatened to destroy my business. You can't expect that to be forgotten overnight. I understand. He hesitated, looking more vulnerable than I'd ever seen him. The store opening. May I come? As a guest, I said firmly. Nothing more. No speeches, no playing the proud father. You lost that right long ago. 6 months later, my flagship store was a resounding success. The fashion press called it a triumph of perseverance and vision. Sales exceeded all projections, and we were already planning expansion to other cities. Father attended the opening, standing quietly in the back, no longer the commanding figure he once was. He came to every show after that, always sitting in the back row, never asking for special treatment. Claire and Megan? I heard they opened a small real estate office with Matthew, struggling to maintain their lifestyle on a fraction of their former resources. The last I heard, Megan was actually working for the first time in her life, though not very successfully. 1 year later, I've been seeing a therapist, Father told me during one of our monthly lunches, trying to understand why I was so blind, why I failed you so completely. And? I asked, genuinely curious. I was afraid, he admitted. After your mother died, I was terrified of being alone, of facing my grief. Claire offered an easy escape, a ready-made family, a new life where I didn't have to feel the pain. And I was too much of a coward to see what it was costing you. It was the most honest he'd ever been with me. I appreciate your honesty, I said carefully. But understanding doesn't erase the past. I know, but I hope. I hope someday we might build something new. Not what we should have had, but something real nonetheless. Epilogue. 5 years have passed since that explosive birthday party. My fashion empire has grown beyond my wildest dreams, with stores in New York, Paris, Milan, and Tokyo. I've won numerous awards, been featured on countless magazine covers, and dressed some of the most influential women in the world. Father and I have slowly built a relationship, not the one we should have had, but something honest and real. He's become genuinely interested in my work, attending fashion shows not for appearance, but out of actual pride. He's even started telling people the truth about those lost years, taking responsibility for his failures. Last month, he gave me a box of my mother's things he'd kept hidden all these years, her sketches, her journals, photographs I'd never seen. I was wrong to keep these from you, he said. They belong with you. Inside, I found a letter she'd written to me before she died, to be given to me on my wedding day. Since I never married, I never received it. In it, she wrote, My darling Evelyn, if you're reading this, it means I'm not there to see you in your wedding dress. But know that I'm with you always. You have a strength in you that will carry you through anything life throws your way. Never let anyone dim your light. Love, Mom. Claire and Megan faded into obscurity, their social standing destroyed by the scandal. I heard Megan finally grew up, got a real job, and learned what it means to work for a living. Sometimes growth comes from losing everything you thought defined you. As for me, I learned that the best revenge isn't carefully planned. It's simply living well and letting the truth come to light. My mother was right. The truth does set you free, even if it takes 40 years to find it. Standing in my Manhattan flagship store, surrounded by my designs and the life I'd built despite everything, I finally feel at peace. The little girl who'd lost her mother, the teenager who'd been pushed aside, the woman who'd fought for every achievement, we'd all survived. And in the end, we didn't just survive. We triumphed.